Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in this GIMI think tank for today. As usual, you know, this is our platform of GIMI. In this platform, basically, there are innovators from around the world, all continents joined together. We always talk about the innovation state of a country. We talk about a latest trend that is happening around. We talk about some tools on innovation management and what is happening around GIMI programs and updates from our partners around the world. So this time we have a great speaker for today who will talk about why design thinking startups succeed better and attract more funding. I am expecting lots of insights from this talk and triggering many thoughts to all of us working in different countries. I'll leave it to Julie to do the introduction of CJ, and thank you, CJ, for accepting our invitation.
Thanks, Cirilla. And let me just say, I hope everybody can hear me. I don't have my earphones in. Great, thank you. First, let me echo Cirilla and others and say thank you, CJ, so much for doing this. You know, I think you're 12 time zones away.
I am 12 hours ahead of you at 9 p.m.
So very much appreciate you doing this. For everybody, I just want to introduce you to my longtime friend and innovation colleague, Dr. CJ Meadows. And I'm pulling this from her very well-designed website. She is a coach, a consultant, an entrepreneur, an e-business builder, an educator, and a speaker, and an advisor. And I'm going to tack on a couple other things. She's also a mother of 4, homeschooling through all this. That means you don't have the kids in school all day. You have them and you're managing their education. And she's also an incredible powerhouse of energy and just total go-getter. And she's been that way since I knew her, eons ago when we were both grad students at HBS. So her latest, one of her latest endeavors is that she started and is leading the Center for Innovation and Leadership for
entrepreneurship.
Innovation and entrepreneurship. Thank you. For the SP Jain School of Global Management in Singapore. So she's lived in Asia for many years. So I'm not surprised with all her accomplishments that she got awarded top 10 women in IT for Asia. I'm also looking forward to hearing her talk today. When we talked over the summer, and I said, "Would you come to GIMI Tank?" And she's like, "Oh, great! What would you like me to talk about?" And it's true. You have, CJ, you have such a wide range of things. But I said,
weird array.
No, but I said, talk about our audience very interested. And so she came up, she sent me this title, "Why Design Thinking Startups Succeed Better and Attract More Funding." And I'm like, oh yeah, that'll do. So with no more of my ramblings, let me turn this over to CJ and say thank you again.
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you everybody for being here. Normally when I give talks, it's not me talking the whole time. Otherwise I make a video and I post it somewhere. I'd like to share some things with you and hopefully ask some questions and then engage you in Q&A so that we can apply some design thinking ideas to your situation. So first of all, let me do a little share screen here. There we go. And we're doing that. Okay, some of the things that I would like to share today are from some material I have on design thinking and business value. And a lot of it, you're going to notice I'm going to skip over it because I've got hours of material and you only want to hear me for about 20 minutes. But I'd like for us to touch on a few really important things. First of all, what is design thinking? Why does it matter? And okay, a little bit about how it's done. Now, the slides that I'm skipping over, don't panic. If you would like to receive the PDFs of those, as well as PDFs showing research on business value created by design thinking, just just contact your GIMI contacts. Is it Jimmy or GIMI? GIMI.
Jimmy.
Thank you.
Jimmy.
Sorry, one more.
Jimmy.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Oh, like Jimmy Mystery, got it. All right, so you'll notice a little Nobi gnome up in the upper left-hand corner of some of the slides, and that indicates slides that are covered in my most recent multimedia book, Design Thinking Intro, Essential Skills for Creativity and Business Growth. That multimedia work is hosted on the Nobi platform. And if you head on over to my website, drcjmeadows.com, and click on the design thinking page, that's one of the things that you'll find there, along with other videos, articles, and all kinds of stuff. All right. So today, obviously being 20 minutes, it's just a little intro. I've had experience with design thinking and innovation for over 20 years, and I'm still learning. And that's the cool thing about it. There's some classic stories in here. That doesn't just mean I don't update them. It means they're great stories. And you're going to notice a lot of different industries represented. So hopefully you'll find something relevant to you. And as a matter of fact, if you can go into another industry and borrow, beg, or steal some good ideas from over there and bring it into your own, that's a very easy way to innovate. All right, first of all, what is design thinking? Let me stop share for a moment and ask, am I talking to an audience of design thinking experts, or have you guys never heard of it, or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. Okay, thank you very much. So let's go back and share the screen in that case. All right, my favorite definition of design thinking is actually from Tim Brown, who's no longer the president and CEO of IDEO, he's the chairman. Design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation. It draws from the designer's tools, techniques, thinking styles, and brings that thinking outside of the fields of industrial design, urban planning, architecture, and so forth, to figure out what is it that people need and want, what's technologically feasible, and how can you offer something in a viable business way. And you want to innovate in that sweet spot in the middle. Now, funny thing, I'm a tech person at heart. I started in tech and I've never let it go. And it's so easy for tech people to find a new tech with a new capability and want to rush ahead into the marketplace, making a new offering or a new startup. That's called the shiny tech syndrome or the shiny toy syndrome. Basically, if you don't first nail and absolutely serve 10 times better than anybody else what it is that people actually want, nobody really cares if you've got the coolest tech and amazing new possibility that gives new possibilities. Let's move forward if my screen will let me. Okay, so you don't, when you're innovating, you don't start with feasibility, what the new tech enables you to do. And you don't start with your own business, your own viability and what you want to push onto people. You have to start with desirability and ultimately finish in the middle. All right, let's stop listening to me And actually, I'd like to share with you a case. This is part of a TED Talk from David Kelly, founder of IDEO. And I'm going to ask you some questions after.
Doug Dietz is a technical person. He designs medical imaging equipment, large medical imaging equipment. He's worked for GE and he's had a fantastic career, but at one point he had a moment of crisis. He was in the hospital looking at one of his MRI machines in use when he saw a young family and his little girl. And that little girl was crying and was terrified. And Doug was really disappointed to learn that nearly 80% of the pediatric patients in this hospital had to be sedated in order to deal with this MRI machine. Right? And this was really disappointing to Doug because before this time, he was proud of what he did. You know, he was saving lives with this machine. But it really hurt him to see the fear that this machine caused in kids. About that time, he was at the D School at Stanford taking classes. He was learning about our process, about design thinking, about empathy, about iterative prototyping. And he would take this new knowledge and do something quite extraordinary. He would redesign the entire experience of being scanned. And this is what he came up with. He turned it into an adventure for the kids. He painted the walls and he painted the machine and he got the operators retrained by people who know kids, like, you know, children's museum people. And now, so when the kid comes, it's an experience. And they talk to him about the noise and the movement of the ship. And when they come, they say, okay, you're going to go into the pirate ship, but be very still because we don't want the pirates to find you. Right? And the results were super dramatic. Right? So from something like 80% of the kids needing to be sedated to something like 10% of the kids needing to be sedated. And the hospital and GE were happy too because you didn't have to call the anesthesiologist all the time, they could put more kids through the machine in a day. So the quantitative results were great. But Doug's results that he cared about were much more qualitative. He was with one of the mothers waiting for her child to come out of the scan, and when the little girl came out of her scan, she ran up to her mother and said, "Mommy, can we come back tomorrow?" Right? And so I've heard Doug tell the story many times of his personal transformation and the breakthrough design that happened from it. But I've never really seen him tell the story of the little girl without a tear in his eye.
That's probably my favorite example of design thinking. And I'd like to think through with you some issues about design thinking and about business. So, okay, that was just Doug. And usually design thinking is done as part of a team. So it takes some employee time. If you're actually an employee, it takes some time to do a design thinking project. Indeed, he investigated the problem. He got a hold of children's museum people. He did the stickers all over the room and redecorated and all that kind of stuff. There was also some materials, you know, so there's a little bit of cost there. It cost something for materials. He probably had to hire the museum folks to come in, yada, yada, yada. It's easy to count the cost. But what's the business benefit of, for example, that design thinking innovation? Can somebody share with me? What would the business get out of it? The hospital, not GE. Anybody willing to be a guinea pig? Okay. Somebody has put onto the chat humanization. So that's a very cool thing. Thank you, Fernando. And everybody's apologies for coughing at you. I'm just finishing up some laryngitis. Understanding about the kids' empathy. So empathy is a tool of innovation so that you can understand the user and share in their experience, so you can really understand and identify problems and design new solutions for them. But let's think through this example. All right, so who's happier with this new design? Well, obviously the kids are, Okay, so you've got happy patients. Now, in a hospital setting, if your patients are relaxed and happy, what happens? They get better, and they get better faster. So who's going to be happy about those kind of patient statistics? Marketing. And they're going to put out adverts and maybe bring in some more customers. Now, who else is involved in this situation? Who's bringing in the kids? Oh, parents. All right. So you're a happier parent, not having to drag your screaming child in there and so forth. Not only are you having a better experience, but ultimately, if your kid is happier and you had a good experience with the hospital, who are you going to tell about it? Any parents out there? You're going to tell other parents. That's the best marketing of all. Yeah. So the hospital's probably going to be bringing in a lot more pediatric patients, and certainly anybody who needs an MRI. Now, not only are the parents calmer, but they don't have to be scared about something. So did you catch the anesthesiologist? It went from 80% of the kids needing anesthesia. They have to be knocked out. General anesthesia is my personal favorite, but there is a risk associated with it. What's that? A certain percentage of patients will not wake up again. So parents are pretty happy to reduce risk. Their child is now a lot safer. Instead of 80% needing the anesthesiologist, only 10% do. Now, Dave Kelly mentioned himself, they could run more kids through the machine in a day. So what does that do to cost and capital allocation and so forth? Now let's think about it. So cost has gone down because we don't need the anesthesiologist and we don't need the anesthesia. And with more kids going through in a day, the capital allocation that you put to each patient, that also went down. Now, cost and risk normally go in opposites, right? Low cost often means shoddy, high risk. If something is really low risk, it's probably going to cost you. So cost went down. Did risk go up? No, risk also went down. So that's a double whammy. So the parents are happy about risk going down and costs going down. They're paying part of the bill. They care about the child. Who else is happy about that? I hope the parent is not paying the whole bill. Who else might pay the bill?
Insurance company.
Insurance.
Thank you very much. So they're quite happy about this as well. Now, is there any department inside the hospital that's happy with lower risk?
Legal department.
Legal, thank you so much. Okay, so the patient's happier, the parent's happy. Oh, by the way, if the person paying the bill is not actually very happy with your service, do you think your bill is going to be paid? Nah, people walk away from hospital bills all the time. So, but with happy patients, happy parents, are they going to pay your bill? Yes. And Fernando is exactly right. You're going to get that money in the door. So what department's happy about that? Accounting and finance. Okay, now, if we had allocated some money to buy a new MRI machine, because we were pretty much at capacity, do we need that machine now? We run more kids through in a day. Maybe we don't need the machine and we can buy some other piece of equipment that will keep the doctors happy and keep great doctors coming in because we've got great equipment. Or maybe we get so many more patients that, yeah, we'll go ahead and buy that and open a new wing and so forth. So risk is down, cost is down, revenues are up. Happy kid, parents, insurance, government if they're paying, happy marketing, legal, finance and accounting. Who else is involved in the situation? Is the kid gonna, like press a button and go through him or herself? The technicians, all right. Who's the heart of any hospital? The nurses. Okay, so the nursing technicians who put the kid into the MRI and take the readings. What was it like before? I mean, 80% of them we've got to anesthetize, they're screaming, they're crying, they're terrified. It's awful. Are you happy to go to work in a place like that, doing that? When was the last time somebody screamed at you at work? Fernando knows. He's smiling. All right. So if your employees are feeling stressed and miserable, what are they going to do?
Quit.
I mean, all of you guys are clearly happy where you're working. But what if your staff, what if your colleagues' staff were miserable? They're going to quit, right? And the problems involved with churn, employee churn. It takes on average 1/3 of an employee's salary to replace them. So if you can bring down churn, that's another cost brought down. But wait a minute, what if they won't quit? They need the job, but they can't face it. They can't face it. What do you do? You call in sick. Oh God, I need a medical certificate. I just can't go into work for a couple days. All right, so then your staff are not actually working, and the quality isn't going to be that good, and your employee insurance medical costs just have gone up. But in the new scenario where they're relaxed, happy, employee insurance costs go down, sick leave days taken goes down. I mean, there's a whole host of business benefits. Now, there's only one person in this scenario who doesn't seem better off. Who's that? From 80% anesthesia to 10%? The anesthesiologist. Okay, but rumor has it she's nearing retirement and she wants to spend more time playing golf with her husband. Okay, so she's fine. Don't worry about the doctor. What's the point? Here it is. It's easy to count the cost of what is normally a 3 to 6 month project for a team. Did you find that easy to identify all the business benefits and how revenue goes up and how the costs go down and what happens to the risk and what business benefit is there? It's hard to do. So that's why we go through cases, and there's some wonderful Harvard Business Review articles on design thinking and organizations that have put it to use and gotten great business benefit. Let me take you back over to the old PowerPoint here. Sorry, Dave, we're not listening to you again. All right. So besides cases like that, is there any research on this? Yes, of course. People do that for a living. Forbes just recently called design thinking and data the new power couple of 2022. Because, for example, data can tell you that people are not keeping their hospital appointments. But you need design thinking is what you do to go and find out why and how to solve that problem creatively. All right. Again, I'm not going to show you all the lovely statistics and all this stuff. There's also employee engagement. So design thinking as a discipline went from product design to service design to customer design to employee engagement. And here's some moments that matter and so forth. If you care to toddle over to ideo.com, there is a whole section on work and, what were the business benefits to their clients in a whole variety of industries. All right. I'm just going to introduce you to a few concepts here because my 20 minutes is sadly, it's almost up. All righty. So design thinking is normally done with a diverse team. You might have an MBA, an engineer, a psychologist, an anthropologist. I worked with a pharma company that had on the team an artist, because she could empathize with clients and potential clients and really understand them deeply. Okay, so there's a whole lot, there's a variety of ways to diversify your team and take advantage of a broad range of perspectives and skills and so forth. All right, here's a very general process. And when I first help people first get some experience with design thinking, this is what we do. We start off making sure people get the right challenge. I cannot tell you how often folks run off creating wonderful solutions to the wrong problem. And I've got some stories on that if you care to hear. We then go out and observe real people outside your office. You cannot design things out of your head and expect that they will succeed. You've got to go and be there with people. And there's some tools and techniques for that. We understand them more deeply. We envision a radically better new future. We solve and design in detail. And we prototype and experiment. Now, funny enough, a lot of business people have heard the following call for action. Hey, we need creative ideas. Let's all get together in a conference room and brainstorm. Okay, when you do that, you've just eliminated most of your opportunities for innovation. Most of the opportunities come from finding the right problem to work on, really understanding people deeply, and then envisioning radically. Okay. Truth is, this is a nice picture. The reality is a lot messier, but conceptually, here you go. Okay. In the interest of time, all right. Let me share with you extremes and analogies, and then a design example, and then turn it over to you for questions. Okay, so marketers love these guys in the middle, your average user. But as designers, we often don't study them. We study the extremes, the highs and the lows. I mean, for example, to figure out that something is wrong with the pavements, the sidewalks, the curbs, how many average users would you have to look at to see what's right and wrong? Thousands at least. How many people in a wheelchair do you have to see on the sidewalk wanting to go across the street to see that they can't get over the curb? You only need to see one. Now, analogies are another thing that we look at so that we can gather fresh new ideas from someplace else and bring them back into your own business, your own industry. Again, hospital example. I'm going to stop sharing. All right, hospital example. For an emergency room to be better, what does better mean? What do you want when you go to the emergency room?
Stay alive.
Yes.
Quick response.
You guys have done this before. You want two things. It's got to be quick because somebody could die, and they damn well better treat you with the right treatment because somebody could die. Now, can you think of another industry totally out of healthcare where it's got to be fast and it better be right because somebody's life is on the line? And there was a hint on the previous slide. I will show it to you one more time. This thing on the upper right hand. What?
Formula car.
Formula One. You got it, man.
Formula race.
That's exactly what the design team did. So design team, the doctors, the nurses, everybody in the emergency room, they sent everybody to a different hospital for one day, and they went to Formula One racing, not just to have a good time, but they were constantly watching the pit crew saying, wow, look, the car rolls in this way and they're doing it like that. And they do, why don't we do that? I don't think we do. Let's do that. They got so many great ideas for what to do with a patient. And they didn't stop there. They went to the Formula One pit crew afterwards and said, hey, come to the hospital. And then they showed them the hospital and said, well, here's what we do. How would you do it? And again, many more ideas came in. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to take you down to just one more example and then open up for some questions and ideas and stuff. There we go. Share that. Yo. Sorry. I'm grabbing the wrong thing. And now hopefully I've grabbed the right thing. Alrighty, so let's get down to the milkshake example. Let me take you down to food. There's a milkshake. All right, so this is the last thing I'm going to say talk-wise, but it's so much fun doing this. And it really brings home what we're talking about. So there was a fast food restaurant chain that hired a design team. And this ethnographer went to the restaurant and stayed there 18 hours. Huge. I assume he was really tired. I don't think he went hungry. Now, there was a spike in sales 2 times during the day. One was in the afternoon and one, like, can you believe it? Early morning between 7 and 8. So the ethnographer in the afternoon saw a middle-aged man wearing a suit, looks like he works in an office, with his son who'd just been playing soccer. And they have the kid's trying to have a treat, but I'll stop sharing. But the dad is doing this. Son, are you finished yet? The son's sucking up the thing, trying not to get a brain freeze. No, Dad, I'm not finished yet. Okay. Son, are you finished yet? No, Dad, I'm not done yet. So what should be a happy family treat is stress time. So the job to be done, or the need or want in design thinking speak, is how might we, I want to have happy family time quick. Have a happy family treat quick. Okay. Now, in the morning, the ethnographer had seen, well, for example, a middle-aged man wearing a suit, comes in between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. He got a ring on his finger, looks like married, maybe a dad or something, and buys a milkshake. Ugh. Who drinks a milkshake between 7 and 8 in the morning? So the ethnographer went to him and said, why are you doing that? And the guy said, oh, easy. I have a 1.5 hour commute to my office, and I don't want to get up early to make breakfast. And I want to keep my tummy full. He didn't say tummy, but okay. Wants to keep his tummy full till lunch. Fine. Well, what else have you tried? Well, I tried a cup of coffee. I was hungry a half an hour later. I was trying to, like put cheese on my bagel and drive, just like Julie earlier, 20 minutes ago. It's dangerous. I tried a banana, peeling, driving, and again, I'm hungry. So that didn't quite work. Okay. But I want something to keep me occupied and eating all the way through my drive. So I'm snappy and awake. Okay. So guys, I'm going to ask you folks to be the designers now. Can you please design for me the afternoon milkshake? So first of all, what flavor do you think it ought to be?
Chocolate.
Remember? Ah, chocolate. Thank you. So remember, this is the kids and the parents who got to get back to work or run off to the next kid. So, all right, it's going to be chocolate. Is it going to be full cream milk, maybe with a little extra cream, maybe whipped cream? Or is it going to be skinny milk and oat milk, almond milk, perhaps? What's it going to be? Full fat or, the diet options? Anybody?
For the kids, full fat.
Kids. It's going to be full fat, right? Full milk, a little extra cream, whipped cream. Now let's think about, should it be thin and watery or should it be thick and gloppy? The afternoon family treat quick. You want it thin and watery, right? Because the kid just wants the treat and it can be quick, and the parent certainly wants quick, right? Okay, now, final question. The straw, is it going to be a big fat straw or a little tiny skinny straw? Remember, you want it to be quick. Big fat, thick straw, right? Okay. So thank you, designers. You have designed an absolutely delicious treat that's quick. All right, let's go back to the morning and design that milkshake. So this is for the morning commuters. Help me stay awake on my commute and fill my tummy till lunch. Basically, that's what they want, right? Okay, so what flavor probably going to be?
Coffee Frappuccino.
Frappuccino, coffee. I vote for coffee.
Starbucks.
Yeah. And I'm going to address, I've got a question for you then, right after we design. Okay, so we'll start with the coffee flavor. Is it going to be full fat, extra cream, or is it going to be skinny milk, almond milk, oat milk, soy milk? Which one? Full fat or the skinny options? Poor guy sits at a desk all day and he's driving 2-3 hours. Skinny. He needs the skinny stuff. He's not grown any taller. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, is it going to be thick and gloppy or is it going to be real thin and watery? He wants it to stay, stay engaging for the next hour, hour and a half.
He's also driving, so he wants it thicker.
And he's driving. He wants it to fill his tummy till lunch.
He's got to be able to drink it with one hand.
Drink it with one hand. It better be thick and gloppy, right? Otherwise, it's not going to fill the tummy till lunch. And he's going to finish it in 10 minutes. You want him to be drinking that thing for like an hour, hour and a half. Hey, how about putting little bits of granola, little dried fruit, little bits of oats in it, to make it interesting. You suck that up. Whoa, I'm awake again. Okay, the straw. So thin straw, as long as you can get the stuff up. in the straw, or a big, big fat straw? What kind of straw? You want it to last an hour, hour and a half. As long as you can get that thick shake up, you want the skinniest straw you can get so that it'll take an hour, hour and a half. Beautiful. Now, the commuter milkshake and the treat milkshake, is that the same product? Okay, a Volkswagen and a Rolls-Royce are both a car. But it's a very different car built for entirely different needs and desires. All right. So this is the point. Whether you're a startup, corporate innovation, whether you're producing products, services, whatever it is, don't just tweak what you're already offering. Get back to basics and understand what is it that the people are, your customers are really trying to get done. What are they really wanting? You know, the old saying in design circles is, you know, nobody ever walked into a hardware store wanting a 1/4-inch drill bit. What they want is a 1/4-inch hole. But what you really want may be a shelf or a bookcase. All right, so you've got to peel back the layers and understand the underlying needs. Now, somebody just mentioned Starbucks. So if this client were McDonald's, who's the competition? Wendy's and Burger King? Is that it? Your competition is also Starbucks. It's also a bagel, even though that's not a great option. It's also bananas, fruit, and so forth. Your competition shouldn't be defined through your eyes and your thinking. The competition is your users' alternatives. Let me ask you as well. Marketing. This is my second to last question to you. Marketing. Demographically, is the morning customer the same as the afternoon customer? I think I described him.
Very
Middle-aged
different.
guy in a suit, married family man, working in an office. It could be the same guy. Demographically, they're exactly the same. However, psychographically, what it is they're wanting, that's completely different. All right. So when you're planning your strategy, don't look in what you call your industry. Get down to your users level and look at it from their perspective. When you're doing your marketing, stop looking at demographics and start looking at psychographics. When you're doing innovation, final soapbox Jeopardy here. Remember the MRI story? Nowadays, innovation is all about technology, right? Was there a technological change in the MRI story? No, there wasn't. It was an innovation in customer experience. So remember, I will show you one last little slide here. Let's see where it went. Okay. So remember, what that didn't work. Come here. All right. Let's see if now it will work. Yay, I got the right slide. I'm so proud of myself. Okay, so remember, you have a process to go through to find and understand those needs and to creatively design for them. When you've done so, you've only worked out desirability. Then you'll go on to feasibility and viability. Some organizations like DBS Bank follow on the design thinking process with an agile loop. Some organizations do a 90-day innovation cycle. And one of the things you can do if that's the case, there it is start your team off with a 4-hour simulation. If you've got some design thinking newbies and non-newbies, go through a 1-week sprint and then go back to the beginning and do a 90-day innovation cycle with some coaching in order to get it right. And why do you do all of this? What's the big business benefit? Well, truth be told, if you understand better your users' needs and design radically for them, that is the basis of a stable and growing business. And when you get to the prototyping and experimentation, you're going to find it a lot cheaper to prototype with cardboard, Post-its, and tape and go talk to people than to spend a lot of money on a development budget, launch, and then find that it failed. Fail early, fail often to succeed sooner. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And oh my God, at last, she's going to stop talking. So all I've done is share a few concepts with you. Now I'd like to hear something about your situation. And maybe we could figure out how design thinking can help you.
CJ, thank you so much. I certainly learned a lot more, and I'm not going to ever look at a milkshake the same way again. Usually we have questions from the participants, and people can just jump out and say something or can post something on the chat. I actually have a question. It might be a little controversial, but
good, I like those.
What about design thinking do you think that design thinkers need to be working on more in their methodology and stuff, like, or in other words, where's their weak spot?
There's a lot of controversy over design thinking. Is it just too much spending for too little results and all that sort of stuff? Designers get it. They understand the value of what they do, but they don't always understand that in a corporate setting, they need to make the case for what they do. So design thinking, and there's actually a Harvard Business Review article on this, where the designers chose not to do the high priority project first, but rather make an innovation in a banking service that was actually used by the leadership team of the bank and the board. And then once they went through that exercise and these folks could see a radically different product that served them much, much better, then they got it. So you can use design thinking to build support for design thinking. And once your leadership really understands experientially, then they're much more likely to go, and do more design thinking projects. Oftentimes design thinkers really do need to start with small, quick win projects, and then build up from there. And you have to show business value in any center that you're going to work in, whether it's a design thinking center or more broadly an innovation center. If you don't turn a profit in 3 years, they will shut you down. Just how it is.
Thanks. Does anybody else, any other questions? Please speak up. Raise a hand or.
And while you guys are thinking of that, how about the title? So Julie asked me before you guys came in, hey, is that just opinion, or is that like, do you have any research on that? And I said, look, I do a lot of work with startups, and generally when I start talking about the cases of understanding user needs and designing really well for them, they get it. And they don't need to be told that, but there is actually research out there. I just didn't grab the citation. And that research does show that if you're a startup and you've got designers in your leadership team and or your board, you will be attracting more funding and you have a lot higher chance of success.
Julie, this is Ron Jonash. I wonder if I could just add to your comment and ask CJ. It seems to me one of the soft underbellies that is being addressed now is that design thinking originally, 50 years ago, I got degrees in design, systems engineering, and economics because I wanted to do this, and we called it design thinking. This was prior to Stanford. This was actually at Princeton. But the thing we didn't do, we focused totally on ethnography and empathy and user experience and all that. We did not focus, and I think originally design thinking did not focus on organizational behavior. So they focused on the user and different types of the users, but not on the organization. And a lot of the work that we do now that I think we should try to find a way to use design thinking more creatively for is trying to get organizations to move quickly, to adopt or to just to promote or to accept different kinds of innovations, because they're resistant to change as organizations, not just as individuals. So I wonder if CJ could comment on how we can use design thinking in an organizational behavior context.
Absolutely. See, the book Design Thinking came out in 1987. It was Peter Rowe or Peter Roth, I can never get his name right. And Diverge, Converge for Creativity dates back to 1946. So the processes and tools and techniques of innovation themselves have not changed, but what we innovate has changed and does change. And you'll see a lot. It was actually at Airbnb that they coined the phrase employee experience, because they'd been working on customer experience.
Yeah.
And then they looked inside their own organization and said, we need kind of the same thing internally. So we need to be designing productive and good employee experiences, especially. And then what got added to employee experience is moments that matter. That came from moments of truth in marketing when you would decide to buy a product. But for an employee and for employee processes, moments that matter are key times of change. You start a project, you finish a project, you hire, you leave, you get promoted, or there's an event in your own life. So organizations are increasingly, especially with the Great Resignation, looking at employee engagement and employee experience as a way to A, keep hold of people, B, attract better people, and C, make them more productive, get the organization out of the way of what people are trying to do.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a question?
Please.
Cristanto from Jakarta, CJ, I'm your neighbor nearby, 1
Yeah.
hour away, south.
Good to see you.
Talking about this design thinking, then you assume that the anthropologists, the scientists, the engineers, they are all talking and knowing each other. They understand each other. But in reality, at least in my country, we live in boxes, right? the scientists belong to government, and then the civil servants, the businessmen, is the commercial, they're talking more marketing. Even in business, the top management and marketing are not necessarily talking the same language.
That's it. They're not, they
So,
don't talk the same language.
so how can you advise a practical way on how to bring them all together, talking and knowing and understanding each other?
Absolutely. Brilliant question. Research show, I'm going to say it again. Research shows that if you've got a problem to solve, bringing in a diverse team means they will have to spend extra time at the beginning stages of trying to solve a problem, just understanding each other's bloody language. And in so doing, explaining their language, explaining what they mean, they also inherently dig into their assumptions. And by doing so, not only can they sometimes come to common understanding, but they'll also find the assumptions that lead them to a breakthrough. Whereas a more uniform team, they won't spend that time in the beginnings, and they won't solve as creatively. So if you can start by just giving them a problem that they can handle and that everybody has something to contribute about, give them that time at the beginning to dig through their language and challenge the assumptions about this problem that they're trying to solve.
Okay, we shall try.
And and to build on that, it used to be that design thinking teams were filled with people from different disciplines, and now increasingly they're filled with interdisciplinary people. Somebody who himself is both an artist and an engineer, or an MBA and a scientist. And if you go to my website and click on fusion or famous fusions, I've done some research on billions of dollars of value created by people with mental diversity. And then when you fill the team with people who are already diverse within their own heads, then if they're working on the same project and they have some collaboration skills or co-creation skills, they can work together and work quite well.
Okay, would it make sense if my idea is actually trying to work on a GIMI methodology? GIMI has got a IMBOK, the Innovation Management Body of Knowledge. It's a kind of innovation management language. Would it make sense that the scientists and the bureaucrats, the business people, are all going together on the training, learning about innovation management with the same language? Would that make sense?
Yeah, it is helpful. As a matter of fact, I have an entrepreneur friend who, the one kind of person that really drove him crazy was bureaucrats. So what did he do? He went off and got a master's in public administration so that he could understand how they think. And then as an entrepreneur, he was able to work more effectively because he understood from their perspective. Now, do you have to go get a master's degree to do that? I don't think so, but he actually did.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, CJ, so I have a last question, I believe. Where do you see mostly like a difference when in applying design thinking in corporate startups, and do you see that applied in SMEs, and do you see any difference in the usage of these different entities on design thinking? Because
honestly, design thinking is design thinking. You can apply it in an entrepreneurial context, SME, corporate, and your own personal life. You can apply it in a variety of circumstances. The only things that you need to make sure of are these. That the problem you're addressing is human-centered, okay? So if you're designing a circuit board, this is not the way to do it. If you're designing a robotic factory, this is not the way to do it if there's no people in it. It is going to take some time. So if it's an emergency situation and you don't have time to design for it, don't do it. If it's not complex, so that you really need to do this investigating, observation and everything, interviewing and investigating, then don't bother. So the problems that you should address are those that are human centered, complex, you have little or no data, and where you don't actually know really what the problem is. Because with design thinking, you'll go out and find out what's the problem and create a solution, oftentimes at the same time. Oh, can I add to that? Got to say though, that for a corporate to launch a failed product, they probably have enough resources that it doesn't matter that much. For a startup to launch its premier product and it fails, the company is gone. So the smaller you are, probably the more you need design. See, somebody is running off right now to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other
sorry.
kind of questions or anything?
That was the
Hold on.
thing, the limitation on resources, and that was mostly my idea. Like usually corporates, they have more resources to research on this and to put, efforts on these complex problems rather than SMEs and startups sometimes. So that's the issue. CJ, so since we are running out of time, what are your last remarks of your excellent talk that I think triggered many thoughts to all of us?
Oh, great. Thank you. Whatever it is you do, just make sure you stop and ask why, and really find out first what's the problem you're solving before you solve it. And then when you have done that, do what we call diverge converge. Come up with a whole lot of ideas. And if they're crazy, that's all the better. And then pick the best one to work on. Most people, if you ask them for their 3 best ideas, they will just write down 3 ideas. Okay. You should be writing down 30 ideas and then choosing the best ones. So find out why and make lots of ideas, then choose your best.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your talk. I don't know, Julie, if you want to add something or.
Just a big thank you. As always, I learn a lot every time I listen to you, CJ. So thank you very, very much. You're welcome back to come anytime. I know it's late on your end, but as you know, we have a few folks who come actually almost religiously every week. We have lots of interesting talks on all sorts of areas focused on innovation and how we can spread innovation around the world and stuff. So I think it's right up your alley as well. So I hope to connect with
you. I would be honored.
Thanks.